What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Universal Mastery. Welcome back to my public YouTube channel. Now, if you're new, what I do here is I break down the occult sciences to a very practical degree so that you can simply use them and apply them in your day-to-day life and get real, actual results with what it is that I am speaking about simply by using your observation and awareness in your daily life. Very simple to do. Now, once again, if you are new to my YouTube channel, let me give you a little bit of an introduction on who I am, just so that you know who you're getting this information from. That's very important. My name is Jeremiah Schwartz. I am a professional occultist. I'm fully initiated in the entirety of the Kabbalistic Tree, and I'm studied when it comes to the 22 major arcana of the tarot deck, also associated with the tree. And I'm also studied when it comes to planetary energies in direct connection with astrology. Okay? So, with that being said, what is the topic of our today's video? This is a topic that I always love talking about, mainly because I have a really deep personal experience with this topic myself, but also because the topic just fascinates me immensely and is one of the most misunderstood aspects of spiritual evolution and spiritual self-development. So that's one of the main reasons, a couple of the main reasons why I love talking about this subject. So the topic of our today's video is going to revolve along the lines of the Qliphoth, okay? So I'm going to be talking about the Qliphoth and its destructive nature, okay? Once again, there is a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of misinformation even from a lack of experience of someone who has not actually been initiated into the Qliphoth over someone who's just speaking about things that they've read from a pure knowledge-based perspective or pure information-based perspective. Okay? So I'm going to be talking about the true nature of the Qliphoth and how it's directly connected to destructive energies, but I'm also going to be sharing the purpose as to why that is, because there is truly a purpose behind it. So if this is something that you're interested in, stay tuned for the rest of the video. Okay, so this is the first thing that needs to be understood, okay? And I'm sure a lot of you that continuously study my YouTube channel and absorb the content are starting to pick up on some of these pieces that I'm going to be sharing. But once again, the first thing that we need to really be aware of is the fact that the Qliphoth is extremely misunderstood in the occult field in general, in the spiritual community 110%. It is extremely misunderstood, even within different occult orders that could be considered high-level occult orders, Freemason, Rosicrucian, Knights Templars, OTO. The Qliphoth, at the end of the day, in our today's time, 2022, it is extremely misunderstood. Okay? Now, what are some of the misunderstandings of the Qliphoth? Well, a lot of people, first and foremost, don't even know about the Qliphoth. Okay? There's a huge portion of people that would consider themselves Kabbalists or people that study Kabbalah that don't even know about the Qliphoth. Okay? So that's one misconception. Just the fact that they're not even aware of it. But then you want to go a little bit deeper as to asking the question, why are people not really aware of the Qliphoth? And the reason is because there is not a lot of solid mainstream information when it comes to the Qliphoth. I mean, there's tons of mainstream, solid, foundational information when it comes to the Sephiroth and the Tree of Life, but there's much less work that is put out publicly in regards to the Qliphoth. Okay? And that brings up a question to anyone who is trying to evolve to get to their highest potential. That should bring up a question to the observer, is why is this not talked about? Why is this extremely misunderstood? And what is it? Truly, what is this aspect of Kabbalah? Okay? Now, there are reasons, there are intentional reasons as to why the Qliphoth is misunderstood. Okay? There are intentional reasons that also go behind why the Qliphoth is misunderstood, and that's going on a very occult level, a very hidden level in regards to psychic warfare and things in that nature. The Qliphoth is very real, and it is being used on a daily basis by people like myself. Okay, I use the Qliphoth. I love the Qliphoth. The Qliphoth is one of the most powerful aspects of Kabbalah itself. Okay, literally one of the most powerful. I'll go as far as saying that, and I'll be explaining a little bit as to why that is later on in this video. But it is extremely powerful, but its power is diverse. Okay, so on one end, it can be used for psychic warfare, destruction. But when you know how to use it, and you know how to embrace it and sort of, the word would be integrate it properly, you can destroy yourself in a structured way to get a much deeper awareness of your own soul, okay, by its own destructive nature. But once again, the point is that I'm trying to create for the very beginning of this video is that the Qliphoth itself is extremely misunderstood, yet by the highest level occultists and the most powerful occultists on our planet today, I and anyone else that is, we use the Qliphoth actively. We are very aware of the Qliphoth, okay? The mass collective, right over their head. Most people in the spiritual community, most people in the occult field are unaware of the Qliphoth, okay? And even if they have a knowledge basis of the Qliphoth, they haven't actually experienced it, so they don't have a practical experience from embracing the Qliphoth itself, which means they don't have the power of the Qliphoth truly, okay? And I'll explain a little bit more. So that's the first thing that needs to be understood. The Qliphoth is extremely misunderstood. In traditional Kabbalah, you initiate through the Tree of Life, the Sephiroth, and you go from Malkuth all the way up to Kether. Now, when you finish at Kether, your spirit comes back down to Malkuth. The energy channels down from Kether in a lightning bolt fashion to Chokmah, Binah, Chesed, Gavura, Tifereth, what's it called? Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and then through that final archetypal path of the world, ruled by Saturn, into Malkuth, where your entire initiatory experience gets grounded in the real world. So basically, as you're initiating through the Kabbalistic tree, going from Malkuth to Kether, you're going through initiations, you're going through transformations energetically, spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, mentally, and that's an aspect of the universe. The Sephiroth is an aspect of the universe. It's universe A, the objective universe. And when you finish that, as I said, the energy channels down in a lightning bolt fashion, and it grounds itself into your physical body based on your self-development, your transformation, having gone through those initiations, and it also manifests in your external reality, okay? And then typically the spirit will move back up to the center of the tree, which is Tifereth, the sun, and that's the sphere that's connected to all the other spheres, and you will typically sit in that sphere until you realize there's more to your evolution. There's more to your self-development, and there is more potential power to develop, and that's in regards to your soul, and that's where Universe B comes into play. But the reality is traditional Kabbalah only teaches you about the Sephiroth. It only teaches you about going from Malkuth up to Kether, and then you've essentially completed your initiatory journey, which is extremely false. That's extremely misleading, and intentionally so, by real occultists like myself that actually know the entirety of the Kabbalistic tree and all of its different facets. Okay? So, with studying Kenneth Grant's literature, which is something I recommend for a lot of people, you start to see how there's more to Kabbalah than just the Sephiroth. He talks a lot about the Universe B aspects, which is the backside of the Sephiroth, the tunnels of Set. But even though there's the backside of the Sephiroth, which is very valuable to understand, and you can develop yourself in very profound ways there is a Qliphoth, which is underneath of the tree. You could think of it as the root system of the tree. Literally, the Sephiroth was created after the Qliphoth. The Qliphoth came before the Sephiroth, okay? Because it's closer to that source of primal chaos, where we all were created from. That dark, feminine, motherly womb, okay? So, once again, now we have this understanding that traditional Kabbalah, most of it completely dismisses the Qliphoth as if it's just the leftover shells, the leftover husks that were left over from the creation of the Sephiroth, the Tree of Life, and then the Qliphoth just turns into this underworld plane, this realm of unsatisfaction, or this realm of complete destruction and just things you don't want to experience, which is why the Qliphoth is associated with hell. It's associated with the underworld, okay? And in Hebrew, it literally translates to shells, okay? And I'll explain a little bit more as to why that actually is. But this is the traditional perspective of the Qliphoth, when in reality, as I mentioned, and if you really want to take advantage of your self-development, you better know this as well. I mean, whether you believe me or not, it is what it is. I could care less. The most professional occultists on the planet, like myself, we're using the Qliphoth daily to control the world and also control the mass collective, okay, and control the unconscious and subconscious to our degree that we can control it to create the reality that we want to live in. Okay, it's being used all the time. You can see the Qliphoth show up in music videos. You can see it show up in lyrics from certain songs. You can see it show up in TV shows, movies, you name it. Okay. Now, with that understanding, that was key. Okay, we need to understand that. Okay, so then there's another group of people that fall along the lines of individuals that were similar to me, where you realize there's a lot more to spiritual self-development and psychic evolution than what meets the eye. There's a lot more than what religion allows you to embrace, and there for sure is a lot more than what just the mass collective is open to in general. Okay, and where does that line take you? Where does this path take you? It takes you into the darker side of your spiritual self-development. I mean, you literally, if you observe everything, you can see there is an undertone of darkness. There is an undertone of dark energy. There's an undertone of chaos literally behind everything. Okay, and if you're wise to some degree and you're an observer, you should be able to recognize that. So at some point in your life, you get to that point where you're like, am I going to keep resisting, or am I going to keep repressing this darker aspect of the world that I'm seeing around me, as well as within my own being, my own unconscious and subconscious? Or am I going to finally embrace it from a scientific perspective and observe from my experience? I mean, if I'm going to live here and I've got this amount of time to be alive, am I going to die in ignorance, or am I going to at least embrace to see and get my own perspective and get my own experience? And that's the path that a lot of people choose, where they're like, you know what, I'm going to jump in. And I'm specifically referring to the occult field and people that gravitate towards the darker side of the evolutionary sciences. Okay. Once again, that was myself included. And I dove in by embracing the darker side of the occult field. And that took me very far. And that actually gave me the knowledge of the Qliphoth and the experience of the Qliphoth. It all was like a string effect because I had the proper foundation. I was ready to make the change. Okay. So now let's talk about the Qliphoth. Okay. So the Qliphoth is destructive in nature. And this is very oftentimes misunderstood by a lot of people. When people hear the Qliphoth is destructive in nature, I don't think they really understand what exactly that means. Okay. I think a lot of people have these ideas and these beliefs that are aware of the Qliphoth, where they hear that it's destructive in nature and they think, oh, I'm going to embrace the Qliphoth, or I'm going to work with the Qliphoth, or I'm going to initiate myself through the Qliphoth, which are all different things, and I'll explain in a second. And I'm going to notice destruction around me. I'm going to notice death around me. I'm going to notice people who are shelled around me in regards to their perspectives and their awarenesses. They have a shell around their energy field. And they just can't see past that, which locks them into Malkuth, just the five senses, basically. And there's a lot of people that think it's that, and that is an aspect of it. That is definitely an aspect of Qliphothic nature, okay? Those types of things that I just mentioned. But the destructive aspects that are associated with the Qliphothic spheres are primarily and first and foremost in regards to your self-destruction. Okay, so this is what goes over a lot of people's heads when they actually want to get into the Qliphoth. And a lot of people end up fucking themselves over because of this misconception. They end up getting into this level of psychic self-development, this spiritual science, and they were not ready for what they initiated. They were not ready for what they started. Okay? Now, that's the most important thing. The Qliphoth in its destructive nature is based on your own self-destruction. So what this means is that when you approach the Qliphoth consciously and you're opening the spheres, or you're at least working with them, once again, there is a difference, then you're embracing those energies that come from those spheres. So the spheres themselves are associated with different planets. They're associated with different zodiac signs. They're associated with different elemental energies, and they're associated with different entities. Okay, entities and spirits. Okay, so when you're dealing with that Qliphothic sphere, you're going to be dealing with all those other aspects of spiritual self-development and psychic self-development, and they can be intense in the Qliphothic realm. Okay, so if you've done any research on the Qliphoth, you'll see that every single one of the spheres is associated with a certain type of negative experience. Now, is this true or is this false? You know, there are some people that will try to be like, I'm this, I'm a black magician and I embrace the dark side. I love the Qliphothic spheres. They are so wonderful, and they are they're not evil. Trust me. Everyone says they're bad and they're destructive. They're not that. And that's going to be coming from the mouth of someone who's a fool. Okay, that's going to be coming from the mouth of someone who does not know the true nature of Qliphothic initiation. Anyone who is a professional occultist, myself included, who's fully initiated through the entire Qliphoth, which was not easy, took me an entirety of 3 years, they will tell you, I will tell you, that it is an excruciatingly painful experience, yet it is wonderful. Okay, it's wonderful in the fact that you actually get to understand yourself, and you get to literally dissolve your own shell and reconnect to your soul properly. That's the beautiful and the wonderful and the powerful aspect behind the initiation through the Qliphoth. But leading up to that unshelling, you are going through huge amounts of challenges, situations, circumstances, events that are literally ripping apart your ego, and it is not comfortable. And as I mentioned, there are a lot of people, most people, 95% of people that go into this level of initiation fail their initiations. Okay. Now, what exactly does a failed initiation look like? There's two main things that could point to a fail. The first one is someone gets into the experience, they see how intense it gets, they see how profound it gets, and they stop moving forward. They literally stop listening to their intuition. They start repressing their unconscious and subconscious, and they go the other direction. They say, fuck that. I am not coming back to this Qliphothic stuff anymore. This is just flip my life upside down. I do not want to be dealing with this. That is a sign. That is someone who has failed. If you've done that, you have failed. Okay, does that mean you can get back into it? Yes, you can. You can continue where you left off, but you're going to have to go through the process. Now, another sign of failure, this is the other typical, most common pattern of failure, is when it comes to the crossing of the abyss within the Qliphothic realm, and you come face to face with Choronzon. Choronzon will challenge you on such a profound degree that if you're not fully ready to die to yourself and allow those chemicals of DMT to naturally be released in your body, if you try to fight that process, you can very well easily fail and then be taken over energetically by Choronzon, which is just, it's a chaos entity that's always trying to feed itself, yet its primary goal is to test the individual. So if you're not ready to cross the abyss, it's necessary that Choronzon has to stop you if you can't initiate past or embrace Choronzon, because you can't get to that level of power over the unconscious and subconscious realm if you're not matured enough, okay, so to speak. If you're not matured enough, and Choronzon will come to test that level of maturity. Can you fully die to yourself? Let go of your need to control, let go of your need to whatever it is that you think you are. Literally, let go of your identity completely. Surrender to your own soul. And in that process, if you can do that, it can sound easy when I'm saying it here. It can sound easy, but when you're in that process, you are in a phase of life where you're like, you got a blindfold over your eyes and you don't know where you're headed, and you're starting to lose touch of who you even are. And you have to just trust that process, listening to your intuition, and eventually you come out of it, okay? That experience typically takes around 4 months to do properly, and most individuals fail during that process. They fight the experience. They still try to hold on to some sense of objective reality. They still try to hold on to their job positions, their status quo, their reputation, their identity, and then Choronzon possesses them. They literally lose the chance of reabsorbing their soul, and now they're basically a vehicle for Choronzon. So the person starts acting, psychotic. They start wanting to always consume things in regards to their main purpose is to just take energy from people, take power from people with no sense of evolution. Okay, and that actually will destroy the human being, because there needs to be that evolutionary balance. If you're going to be consuming energies, you also need to be balancing it with some form of evolution. Okay, so Choronzon will prevent you from properly evolving, yet always trying to devour people's souls. It's the nature of Choronzon. Okay, so these are the two common failures. Okay, when it comes to the Qliphoth. Now, is there people that do it successfully? Yes. But once again, as I said, they're out of 95% of people that get into that level of initiation, I promise you, 5% do it successfully. And the 5% that do it successfully have the proper foundation before going into it. Meaning, these are individuals like myself that have already experienced and have practiced with the realm of psychology, with the realm of mental, physical, and emotional discipline, okay, to some degree. Okay, if you think you're just going to go into the Qliphoth and gain these powers and you have no foundation, you're going to fall into that grouping of people that don't do it successfully. Okay, so that needs to be understood. Once again, the Qliphoth is designed to destroy all of the different aspects of yourself that are not in association with your soul. So when you look at the Kabbalistic tree itself, if you can imagine this right now, you have all the 10 spheres, Malkuth all the way up to Kether, okay? The 11th sphere is Dath, and then you have the 3 veils at the very top. You have Ain, Ein Sof, and Ein Sofar, okay? Now, when you get to that farthest veil, you're essentially at the void, okay? You're at that space of, let me pull a picture. I'll pull a picture. Let's see here. Here we go. Just so you can understand what it is that I'm talking about. Here is what I'm talking about. Now, this goes for the Sephiroth, and this also goes for the Qliphoth, the tree above and the tree below. Remember the principle, as above, so below. So you can see there are 3 veils. If you actually zoom in, or if you look closely, you can see there are 3 veils on this tree at the top of Kether. And I'll read them off to you. The first one is Ein Sofar, which stands for infinite light. The second one is Ein Sof, which represents limitless all, which is sort of like boundless. And then the last one is Ain, which represents void. Isn't that interesting? The first 2 veils is infinite light, limitless all, and then you have void, which literally shows that everything in regards to the universe is predominantly void. It's predominantly dark energy. So the tree itself, the Kabbalistic tree itself, exists in a space of dark energy. It exists in the void. Okay? So when we're looking at the Qliphoth, this is the pathway to actually getting to the void. Okay? You're not going to get to the void with the Sephiroth alone. It's not possible. You're not going to get to the void with the Sephiroth alone, because that is just universe A. Okay? The Qliphoth is the only route to properly get to the void. Now, the soul is void in nature. The soul was born from chaos. Truly, it was. It's connected to the source. That's why it exists. But it was born from chaos. The dark mother, the womb. So the soul is dark energy in nature. It has that source aspect to it, which is evolutionarily based, but it's dark energy in its nature, which means in order for the soul to be able to exist interdimensionally within our universe that is predominantly 96% dark energy, if you pull up a graph, you'll see this, the soul obviously has to be dark energy. Okay, it only makes sense. The soul is dark energy. This is why the soul is represented as being feminine. This is why the black pillar on the Kabbalistic tree is the feminine pillar. So with that being said, it makes sense that within the Qliphoth, the tree underneath the tree in universe B, this would be the path to getting properly and directly to the void as you're initiating down those Qliphothic spheres. So that's the entire goal of really getting back and in touch, basically having your own soul possess you properly, is through the Qliphoth once you get to the void. Okay? Which is the completion of the Qliphothic journey. But when you go through that crossing of the abyss and overcome Choronzon, that is a big experience where your soul really comes into you. And it makes sense because that archetypal pathway is connected between the central sphere of Thagirion and is associated with that archetypal path on one end of the High Priestess or on the other end of Gargophius. And at the top of the Qliphothic tree, you have Thamiel, and then you have those 3 veils again. So that one archetypal path that connects the central sphere to the top connects also into that top sphere, which has the 3 veils where the void resides. So it makes sense. And that is the entire process and goal of your Qliphothic initiations. So what this means is that as you are initiating through the Qliphoth, and I'm going to use the word initiating for now, I'll talk about the difference between initiation and working with. There's a difference, okay? As you're initiating through the Qliphoth, you're going sphere by sphere, archetypal path by archetypal path down that Qliphothic tree, and you are having certain things within yourself that are being destroyed that are primarily rooted in the objective universe, in universe A, that you think are 100% you and in touch with your soul and what your purpose actually is for being here as a human being. So every one of those spheres, something is getting destroyed, something is getting ripped apart, and once again, it is not comfortable. But at the same time, simultaneously, you are gaining real knowledge, real understanding, real wisdom, and simultaneously with that, real power. Okay, as you're eliminating, just like a snake sheds its skin to have brand new scales and brand new skin, you are shedding every single time you go down that Qliphothic tree. Okay, and the levels of shedding increase at certain areas on that tree as well. Okay, and that's another story, but this is the nature of the Qliphoth and its destructive aspects. Okay, and when you get to the finality of that Qliphothic initiation, when you're in Thamiel, you are getting in touch with the void. Okay, because after Thamiel, there are those three layers: Ein Sof, Ein Sofar, and Ein, the void. This is why most initiates, real initiates that have gone through the entirety of the Qliphoth and have finished in Thamiel and have been crowned as Lucifer, which means the hidden part of chaos that creates order, because you were able to be the hidden part of chaos that created order out of the chaos. So therefore, you were literally an embodiment of Lucifer. You were the archetype of Lucifer in those regards. And in that final sphere, you become that. You become Lucifer in your own right. Okay? Which means you have the ability to teach these occult sciences, these occult truths, and understand them simultaneously. This is why I'm one of the only people on YouTube that teaches these occult sciences and also simultaneously can share my experience based on my initiation. I don't see many people talk about that, okay? And that's just a fact. But as I'm saying, when you finish at Thamiel, you have those final voids. And this is why most initiates, when they really truly finish at Thamiel, if they've properly done it, they will start to realize the dark feminine becomes the most prominent energies that come to their recognition. Okay, so for example, you may, in your final initiatory sphere, you may start being influenced by Hecate very profoundly. Or you may start being influenced by the Black Dragon, the Dark Mother, which can show up in the form of Tiamat, Dagon, okay? Maybe even Leviathan, okay? Or Lilith even, or the Scarlet Woman. You're going to start coming across these dark feminine energies, and it's because it's associated with that final veil after the final sphere, which is the void. And that's truly where everything came from. It came from that dark motherly source of evolutionary chaos where the soul was born, and then we have our own individual soul with a physical body that is once again linked to the source of all evolution, and we exist on this planet. So when we embrace that dark feminine motherly black dragon energy, we're truly embracing what it is that created our soul, or at least gave birth to our soul, which is in direct association, has nothing to do with worship. It's in direct association with the deepest levels of your own unconscious and subconscious mind. So this is why the most powerful occultists typically are going to gravitate towards the darker motherly feminine energies, because we're working with deeper layers of our unconscious and subconscious. Okay. And yeah, so that's what I wanted to share. I know that's obviously a lot of valuable information. If you have to watch this a couple times, please feel free. But let me cover the last bit, and then I'm going to wrap it up. Working with the Qliphoth, and I'll make an entire video on this subject, so I'll just cover it very briefly here. Working with the Qliphoth is very different than initiating through the Qliphoth, okay? There are people that think, oh, um, I'm going to draw the sigil of a Qliphothic sphere, or I'm going to invoke an archdemonic force that's associated with a Qliphothic sphere, and I'm going to go through this visualization of entering into that sphere, or I'm going to ask the entity to give me an experience of what that Qliphothic sphere is, and things of that nature. And you can get that experience. You can energetically, quote unquote, tune yourself, or energetically be influenced by that Qliphothic sphere based on what it is that you're asking. Okay, I mean, people throw a lot of disregard in the power of intent. Like when you ask an entity to do something, and you know how to properly invoke that entity, and you know how to presence the energy, like what I mentioned, drawing the sigil for the sphere and the entity, and then doing a proper invocation, and then stating your own intent, your own personal intent, you can get a lot out of that. Okay, that's huge. This is something very misunderstood. But long story short, there, as I said, in this example, you can get the influence of a Qliphothic sphere. So I could, at any time, I could draw the sphere of Thamiel, okay? Draw Pluto, uh, find a sigil for Thamiel, draw the sigil, draw a sigil for Satan and Moloch, and invoke both of them and say, give me the experience of Thamiel, and then, do an invocation around it. So I would do it first. I would do the invocation, and then I would say, give me an experience of Thamiel. And then I would sit with the energy and allow it to really become manifest. Okay. Um, and yeah, I may very well get the experience of Thamiel. I may feel those energies. They may linger into my life for a couple days after. And I for sure can guarantee I'll probably have some visualizations that are associated with Thamiel in the midst of that invocation. But once that couple days goes away, once a week, 2 weeks goes away, those energies are going to fade off. Okay. There is a difference from when you're intending to initiate into the Qliphoth, like initiate. So this would be, rather than energetically linking yourself to or being influenced by the Qliphothic shells or spheres, there's a difference from that and someone who's opening the spheres. Okay. When you open the spheres, you're starting a process and you're starting a journey that will take on its own momentum. It will take on its own form and its own momentum that truly you're not really going to have a choice whether you want to continue or not. And once again, if you back out, you're going to be one of those people that failed, and it will always be on the back of your mind. And you may very well, and I can guarantee, experience unfortunate events from doing that. I mean, it's directly connected to your unconscious, subconscious. The more you repress it, the more bad things happen. So when you initiate those spheres, when you say, I command, you do the proper invocations, you set up a contract with Lucifer, and you're serious about really getting power from the darker side of evolution and the darker side of your own being, and you command and intend that you want to initiate fully into the Qliphoth, and you want to open the spheres to get the most power, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding out of the experience, that is very different from someone who's just invoking the energy of a sphere to have the influence of it, to get an idea or a perspective. Okay? When you're in the initiation, as I said, it takes on a life of its own. It takes on its own momentum that oftentimes, I mean, I don't know any case actually that you can't stop. Okay? And people that have actually done this will know what I'm talking about. And once again, there are 95% of people who fail the Qliphothic initiations. You're going to hear people talk about it all the time. Oh, this and that and this. Most people haven't even initiated in the Qliphoth. They haven't actually opened the shells. They've just experienced the energy from the spheres. They've just, as I said, did an invocation of the archdemonic force. They drew a sigil. They asked for the experience of the sphere. They had some visualizations. The energies lingered, at a maximum 2 weeks later. And then they got the experience, which is valuable. It's wonderful. It's great to test the waters that way. And you can definitely gain value in self-development in regards to self-development. But there's a huge difference from fully immersing yourself into the sphere and opening the shell where you're in as an initiate. Way different experience. And it's in that different experience is followed by a different mindset, a different belief system, and a different intent. Okay, there's a different intent and overall a different foundational perspective from the initiate and the person who's invoking the energies just to experience them and get a perspective of them. Okay, it's not that one's better than the other. It's just that one's going to lead you to way more power, but it's also going to simultaneously lead you to a lot more challenge, a lot more initiation. Okay, so that's what I'll say, and I'll make a whole video on that subject so that people can really understand it, because I've had conversations with people where I'm looking at them and I'm listening to them and I can tell they have no idea what initiating through the Qliphoth is. Yet while I'm having the conversation, they're telling me, oh, this and that and this and that. I went through this. And I'm like, okay, how long did your initiations take? And they're like, oh, I did it in 6 months or a year. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah, you think you did, but you're talking about that's a mental trick you're playing on yourself, because you haven't actually opened the spheres. You haven't opened the shells. You haven't actually initiated yourself. You just invoked the energies, okay? And this is very common, okay? So don't fall for that trap. Don't fall for people because that can be really misleading. You know, people can get a perspective on the Qliphoth from a group of people who have never initiated through it that is somewhat close in experience because they had the experience from invocation or whatever the case is, but there's just a huge difference from someone who's actually opened the spheres. And it's actually, when you see occultists like myself that talk about the Qliphoth compared to other people that haven't actually initiated through it, you're going to see the differences in the behavior, in the way we talk about it, and etc. Okay? So once again, that's going to wrap it up. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this video, this was a good video, hit the thumbs up. Definitely make sure you do so, okay? Also, come down here and hit the notification bell because I post videos as often as I can, and obviously, with content like this, you do not want to miss out, okay? Trust me. Now, make sure you definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel, okay? If you are consuming my content and you are not subscribed, then you are making a very big mistake. So take at least 1 second, look at that subscribe button, and click the button, because right now my subscribers have been thriving, okay? And I love to see it thrive. So it's working, okay? I also want to say this. If you have any family, friends, or social media platforms, please feel free to copy and paste this link and send it out, okay? I do not care. You have my full permission to copy this link and send it out to anyone that you think or feel it may offer value to, okay? My intent is to spread this content like a wildfire, and it literally has been working. I mean, my YouTube channel has been growing at a very fast rate, okay? And that's exactly what I'm intending. And then also come down here and add me on Instagram. Very easy to add me, JER_477. If you want to see me post unique things, add me on Instagram, okay? Check me out on social media. See what I'm like on social media, okay? Now also, if you want to find yourself in a private Facebook community, click the little drop down, go into the description, scroll down a bit, and you will see there's a post that says private Facebook community with a link right below it. Click that link, follow the link. You can request to join into the private Facebook group, and I will add you in. Right now we have over 300 members. We're at the 350 mark, and it's active daily, and there's a lot of valuable conversations that take place within that Facebook group. I must say so myself, okay? So definitely, if that's something you're interested in, check it out. If it's not, don't do it, okay? Now, this is the most important link that I need to take your awareness to. This is the first link. When you click the little drop down right in the description, it says Patreon. Obviously, that's going to take you right to my Patreon. Now, on my Patreon, I have an entire and exclusive vault of occult content that is not on my public YouTube channel, and that is for many different reasons. Okay, right now the Patreon has over 160 members. It's continuously thriving, and there is content in the range of live streams, blog posts, information through video in regards to the Kabbalistic Tree, the Sephiroth, and the Qliphoth, and many more types of content and information. Okay, very valuable. Now, for Tier 3, this is going to give you access to an entire magic training course, which is amazing if you're a beginner. This is going to teach you how to link your energy field to your tools. This is going to teach you how to use your tools. It's also going to teach you some other techniques on how to psychically develop yourself. Okay, once again, that's Tier 3 and up. Then for Tier 4, this is going to take you to the top tier of my Patreon. This is what's called the Universe.B Vampire Service. Now, for this month, it's coming up in a couple days. Right now, the date is the 24th, and it's the 25th today. It's on the 29th, so I'm excited for that. But the Vampire Service is the most popular tier on my Patreon. That's obviously for a reason. And what I do, this is the only service that I do for individuals, okay? As of right now, this is the only service that I do, and I've been doing it for over a year now, okay? So what I do on the 29th of every month, 29 because it equals 11, 2 plus 9, Dath, the hidden doorway, 100% manifestation, I completely change the energetic structure of the participants who are a part of the Universe.B Vampire Service. So what this means is I create and I perform a very advanced ritual that does take me a lot of time to create. It takes me over 4 hours, and including the performing, and I document it on the Patreon. And what it does is it changes your energetic structure to be more Universe.B dominant. So what this naturally manifests being like is the individual becomes more receptive. They become more open to the unknown, which truly means they're more receptive to their own unconscious and the subconscious, and just the unconscious and the subconscious of the universe in general. So when you're more Universe.B dominant, you can start pulling in energy. Remember, receiving, receptive, you start pulling in energy like a magnet. And primarily, you can start pulling in energy from dark energy and chaos around you and integrate it into your own power, which naturally is going to increase your psychic capabilities and your psychic experiences and psychic power exponentially, especially the longer you've been a Universe.B vampire. And yes, when you get that service, you are considered a vampire. You are a Universe.B vampire at that point. Okay? So other than that, that's going to wrap it up. I don't really need to say much else on that subject. If you want to take advantage of it, first link in the Patreon, first link in the description, the Patreon right there. Check it out. Okay, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to give a special shout out to all of you who are Patreon members. Okay, huge shout out to all of you specifically for taking your knowledge, your practices, and your studies to that other side. Okay, that's always appreciated, and huge shout out. Okay. Now, the second link that I want to take your awareness to is also in the YouTube description. Scroll down just a little bit, you'll see it. At the second link below, you're going to be able to book a tarot card reading with me. Okay. Now, as you book this tarot card reading with me, what I can do for you is I can literally pinpoint exactly where you're located on the Kabbalistic Tree. Okay, so I can pinpoint where you're at on the Kabbalistic Tree in the moment, tell you what you're experiencing, feeling, and going through based on your position within that Kabbalistic Tree, because I have the awareness to do that, and then tell you what to expect moving into your near and your long-term future, once again based on your placement. Okay, and the only reason why I'm able to do this is because I'm a professional occultist, which is what separates me from a lot of other tarot readers. Okay, I've done well over 250 readings now. I get tons of valuable feedback, and I will leave it there. If that's something you're interested in, check out the second link below. Okay. Now, if you go down to the same YouTube description, this time to the third link below, this is going to take you to where you can become a YouTube member. Okay. Now, as you become a YouTube member, you gain access to the exclusive Psychic Warfare emoji system. Okay, what this means is you can use emojis that I've personally designed myself to be set up in a certain configuration that causes psychic damage to a specific individual of your choice, a quote unquote target. Okay, and it really does work. There's a lot of people using it right now. I have an entire community post just for the Psychic Warfare program, and it has over 1,200 comments in that post as we speak, full of names of targets. So it is being used very often. Okay. Now, also, as you become a YouTube member, you have benefits that come into play when it comes to live streams. I always give you a shout out when I see you're a YouTube member and you have the badge next to your name. Always, I'll give you a shout out. And you have access to leaving a question every single month that you are a member that appears in the exact same way as a super chat. And I will cover it the same way as I do the super chats on my live streams, which means the most in-depth and guaranteed it will get covered. Okay? So other than that, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to wrap it up. I appreciate all of you, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day or night, wherever you are, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.